Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's Holy Sabbath Day. Welcome to our celebration of Atonement, which whenever Yahweh has ordained a Sabbath and it falls on the Sabbath, then those things are called high Sabbaths. But this, when we deal with what the atonement is, it's about, as we have covered going over before, to be reconciled and have something reconciled is to have your account set square. When we consider the way everything is set up in America, we see people still going on about their business, and some driving nice cars, some doing all of these things. We hear all of this stuff going about how much money is here and there, but there, when you start to look at the deficit that America is in, and they're talking about all of this money, it is completely underwater with how much money it owes out to other people. So when you don't ever really have to come to that reconciliation, when you don't have to reconcile your account, you can go just like America does. You can go from day to day and feel justified, and your account is upside down. You can really feel like you doing good. I mean, you driving good. Your clothes look nice, but your account is upside down. And America has put forth this type of mindset, this type of living for so long, that people believe that this is some kind of normal thing, that it is okay to operate in this manner. And as long as you're not called to the table, it looks like everything is okay. But do understand, eventually we all get called to the table. Everybody is gonna have to get called to the table. So we have to consider that reconciliation and what that is going to mean for us. And the more we do on this side of the walk, it's the less that we have to do later on down the line, because Yahweh gives us opportunities for us to reconcile our account on our own. And then after that, it's no different than what you see in a big company. They will end up saying in a big company, they end up bringing somebody else in and saying, all right, these people are going to reconcile our account. They're going to find out where our minuses and where our pluses are, and what we can do to get ourselves back on good standing. Well, Yahweh gives us an opportunity to do those things on our own. And he waits, and he waits. He's rich in patience. But then after that, he sent one of them angels to say, go reconcile that boy account. Go reconcile that girl account. Go straighten that out. Now, you're not going to like the way that angel does what he does, because he doesn't really care anything about flesh. He's not limited to what the flesh likes and dislikes. His mode of operation fits Yahweh's mode of operation. He does not care anything about what affects fleshly beings as part of, as it goes to our feelings. He has a job to do, and his job is to reconcile that account. And especially if Yahweh has said, I want that son, that's my son, and that's my daughter, and I need them on this side. So go and get them. So whatever you got to do to reconcile that account, if you got to whoop them, if you got to beat them, if you got to chastise them, if you got to do whatever you got to do, I want them on this side with me. Then we're going to have to do what we got to do. Let's begin tonight in Leviticus chapter 23. And I apologize for y'all that was on the phone. I apparently forgot to press that mute button. And I know we starting on CP. I know I told y'all it was Eastern Standard, but this is definitely CPT time today. But man, if y'all knew what all we went through today for us to be broadcasting and sitting here right now, ooh-wee, it's been a very interesting day. Very, very interesting day. Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 27. We're going to read verses 27 through 32.
Also on the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. And you shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahweh your Elohim.
So we know that the atonement is the reconciling of our account. We understand that this is getting back right in as far as having ourselves put back in the right place. Now he says they shall do no work, because what we know is a lot of times we will do things to try and pass the time when we are going through that atonement. And that atonement, we are to afflict ourselves. See, what we do a lot of times is we wait for somebody else to afflict us so we can whine about the affliction. You always say afflict yourself. Afflict yourself. Then you ain't got to wait on me to send one of them angels to do it. And you're not going to like the way they do it. You're not going to like the way they do it. Go ahead.
For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that does any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and you shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even.
From even unto even. So when it is dark, that begins the fast, that begins the Sabbath, just like everything else, to the next day at even. And Yahweh puts these things in here, and some of these things are so repetitious, but you know, we need that, because you know I've encountered people that automatically start doing things at 6 o'clock because they said, you know, the Sabbath was over at 6 o'clock and it was the next you know, day. And I was like, where'd you get that from? It's from even to even, which means it changes according to the season. Earlier in this season, it wasn't getting dark till close to 9. Now we're getting dark at like 7:30 here in Atlanta. So this is how Yahweh took care of that little time thing, even to even. We ain't got to worry about no time. Wherever even is, there it is. But what people will do, because it may be 6 o'clock on one day at one part of the year, but then as it changes, you change with it. Then we have people that, you know, we're in the middle of summertime and Hebrews inviting us to an event at 6 o'clock. It's 3 more hours of the Sabbath. And I'm trying to figure out what you talking about. How you invite me to an event at 6 o'clock? Sun don't go down to 9. Go ahead, brother. You finish that?
Shall you celebrate your Shabbat?
All right, let's go to Leviticus chapter 16. So, you know, we kind of get accustomed to that. Once we get used to certain things, we start becoming more and more lax to it. And, you know, that is going to eventually be a problem. But Yahweh lets things go because he wants to see how far we're going to go. And you would rather catch your sliding on your own and then chastise yourself rather than allow Yahweh to do it. Leviticus chapter 16, and let's start with verses 1 through 10.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, when they offered before Yahweh and died. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Speak unto Aaron your brother, that he come not at all times into the holy place within the veil before the mercy seat, which is upon the ark, that he die not. For I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat. Thus shall Aaron come into the holy place, with a young bullock for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen coat, and he shall have the linen breeches upon his flesh.
Right. Act like you're going to see somebody. We'll put more time into going to a date than we do for going to present ourselves before Yahweh. Act like you're going somewhere. Put on, these are holy clothes, just like I was saying in our last class. Linen don't cost but $19. But folks will go out and buy a $150 game and show up in all kind of way talking about they serving Yahweh. $19 is what linen. It says linen is the righteousness of saints. What's the problem? Go ahead.
And shall be girded with a linen girdle, and with the linen mitre shall he be attired. These are holy garments.
These are holy garments. So holy people are supposed to carry themselves in a holy manner, especially when you're presenting yourself before Yahweh, your Elohim. You go to a football game, they wear a jersey, right? You go to a basketball game, they got on a basketball jersey. They dress according to the function that they are attending. I mean, think how strange it would be if somebody went to a wedding, with a bathing suit on. And he just walked up in there. What's up? What's wrong with this dude, man? This dude crazy. This dude crazy. Why? Because he's not dressed according to where he is. Do y'all know what this is? Do y'all know where y'all going? Go ahead.
Therefore shall he wash his flesh in water, and so put them on. And he shall take of the congregation of the children of Israel 2 kids of the goats for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. And Aaron shall offer his bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make an atonement for himself and for his house. And he shall take the 2 goats, and present them before Yahweh at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron shall cast lots upon the 2 goats, 1 lot for Yahweh, and the other lot for the scapegoat. And Aaron shall bring the goat upon which Yahweh's lot fell, and offer him for a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell to be the scapegoat shall be presented alive before Yahweh, to make an atonement with him, and to let him go for a scapegoat into the wilderness.
And Yahshua played both roles because he was able to be resurrected. He was the goat that was to be sacrificed, but he was also the goat that would be let free. No man would have been able to fulfill both of those things because a man didn't have that ability to bring himself back to life again. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And Aaron shall bring the bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself, and shall make an atonement for himself and for his house, and shall kill the bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself. And he shall take a censer full of burning coals of fire from off the altar before Yahweh, and his hands full of sweet incense beaten small, and bring it within the veil. And he shall put the incense upon the fire before Yahweh, that the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is upon the testimony, that he die not. And he shall take of the blood of the bullock, and sprinkle it with his finger upon the mercy seat eastward. And before the mercy seat shall he sprinkle of the blood with his finger 7 times. Then shall he kill the goat of the sin offering, that is for the people, and bring his blood within the veil, and do with that blood as he did with the blood of the bullock, and sprinkle it upon the mercy seat, and before the mercy seat. And he shall make an atonement for the holy place, because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel, and because of their transgressions and all their sins. And so shall he do for the tabernacle of the congregation that remains among them in the midst of their uncleanness.
Right. So whether we know it or not, whether we are in our ignorance or not, it doesn't change the fact that the uncleanness of Israel needs to be reconciled. A lot of times we think, well, because I didn't know, that makes this okay. Ignorance of the law is never any excuse. If that's your only excuse, do know that when you show up at any court before any judgment, that ain't gonna fly. Go ahead.
And there shall be no man in the tabernacle of the congregation when he goes in to make an atonement in the holy place, until he come out and have made an atonement for himself and for his household and for all the congregation of Israel. And he shall go out onto the altar that is before Yahweh and make an atonement for it, and shall take of the blood of the bullock and of the blood of the goat and put it upon the horns of the altar round about. And he shall sprinkle of the blood upon it with his fingers 7 times, and cleanse it, and hallow it from the uncleanness of the children of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And when he has made an end of reconciling the holy place, and the tabernacle of the congregation, and the altar, he shall bring the live goat.
Now, if you don't do enough reading, and right here in verse 20, these are the things, the words that you're going to go across in the New Testament. Reconciling. So when people read in the New Testament and they come across reconciliation, they never think atonement. That this is why they believe that we're just overachievers because we're keeping the Day of Atonement. They believe that we're overachievers because we keep the holy days, because they don't match the words up in the New Testament. They'll read reconciliation and keep on going, because there's not a holy day called reconciliation if you don't understand the definition of atonement. So they don't make that connection, so they don't think that this means anything. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 16 and verse 21. And Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat, and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all their transgressions and all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness.
Right. So then we have Yahshua having all of the sins of the children of Israel placed upon him. His sacrifice was not about his sins. It was about ours. Go ahead.
And the goat shall bear upon him all their iniquities unto a land not inhabited, and he shall let go the goat into the wilderness.
Right. Yahshua went into a land that we can't go in. Go ahead.
That was it, verse 22.
All right. Let's go to Exodus chapter 29. Of course, we do have people who believe they go into that land. Exodus chapter 22. And let's read verses 32 through 36. Exodus 29, I'm sorry, and 32 through 36.
Verse 32. And Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram, and the bread that is in the basket by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And they shall eat those things wherewith the atonement was made, to consecrate and to sanctify them. But a stranger shall not eat thereof, because they are holy.
Right. So the things pertaining to the atonement, they must eat those things. When you talk about letting all the other things burn, you then are dealing with Yahweh consuming those things. Go ahead.
And if aught of the flesh of the consecrations or of the bread remain unto the morning, then you shall burn the remainder with fire. It shall not be eaten, because it is holy.
Mm-hmm. Now see, we need these kind of instructions, because we'll make concessions in a minute. We have where we pray over the wine to do our Passover. If we ain't careful, folks will get the rest of that wine. Hey, bro, can I get the rest of that Passover wine? No, man, you can't drink that. But see, you need to read the instructions. Otherwise, you end up being one of those that just thought they were doing good and put their hand on the ark to keep it from falling over, and then the angel kill you. And then people wonder, why that happened? Because you didn't understand the instructions. That was Yahweh's seat. You can't touch that. I don't care what you think, feel, and believe. It looked like it was about to tip over. It did. Then you let it fall. If Yahweh was strong enough to build the whole earth, he can pick that ark up himself. There it is. Somebody gonna pick that up, because I'm not touching. Go ahead.
Verse 35. And thus shall you do unto Aaron and to his sons, according to all things which I commanded you. 7 days shall you consecrate them. And you shall offer every day a bullock for a sin offering for atonement. And you shall cleanse the altar when you have made an atonement for it, and you shall anoint it to sanctify it.
Now, you have to consider how much work was into this. And you shall offer every day a bullock for a sin offering for atonement, and you shall cleanse the altar when you have made an atonement for it, and you shall anoint it to sanctify it. This is where we started going and getting into a lot of deep issues, as we didn't follow the rules and regulations that were given unto us. We then had outside influence, now invasion from other nations. Then they started causing us problems being able to do all of these things. See, there's a certain amount of freedom that you need to be able to have to do all of this. There's no way we would be able to do any of this in captivity. These people will see what we're doing and shut us down, invade everything that we got going on. Yahweh gave us the complete freedom to be able to do all of these things without hindrance. But as we stop doing all of the things in the details, we start having more and more issues doing the same regular things that we were able to do without a problem. So part of the issues and part of the conversations that we have to have and doing all of that, that's part of our punishment for not really doing what we were supposed to do in the first place. But we never equate the two. We like to separate any issues from anything that we may have done. And all of those things can go hand in hand, and all of those things can be put in. It could be things that you haven't done anything wrong about, just that Yahweh wants you to grow on to another level. And our thing is all about what we're accustomed to. If we're accustomed to staying on level 1, that's where we want to be. But level 1 ain't the place for nobody to stay. That's the place for somebody to enter. So if you've been standing in this word for 5-10 years and somebody come in tomorrow and they at the same place that you at, there's a problem. There's a problem there. Let's go to John chapter 19.
Yohanan chapter 19 and verse 1. Then Pilate therefore took Yeshua and scourged him. And the soldiers plaited a crown of thorns and put it on his head. And they put on him a purple robe and said, Hail, King of the Yehudis! And they smote him with their hands.
Right. Now they're mocking him because, of course, this question about being a king, not understanding that he wasn't coming in the capacity of a king at that time. That's why they asked him, if you come at this time to restore the kingdom unto Israel? And he replied, it is not for you to know the season, the times that the Father has reserved unto himself. He wasn't coming in that capacity. The capacity that he was coming in was the capacity of a high priest, and the offering that he came to offer was himself. So while this is why you have to be careful, because a lot of times people are doing things and they don't understand that they're actually fulfilling the word. But you're being used in a bad place to do it. See, somebody had to betray Christ. Judas just fell in that role. See, somebody got to fulfill some real evil roles. You need to make sure it just ain't you. Somebody had to be right amongst all the rest of the disciples. Somebody had to eat with them. Somebody had to dip their, food in the same bowl. Somebody had to kiss him as a sign for the rest of the people to go and do what they had to do. Somebody had to play that role. And we all auditioning for a spot. The problem is you don't know what role you auditioning for. And you auditioning by the level of the work and the dedication that you put in. So if your level of dedication is a number one, Yahweh said, I got a spot for a number one. Sit right here, John. Go ahead. What's the matter? You got level one work, you get a level one job. I need somebody to betray some brothers, because this betrayal of these brothers is going to make these brothers work harder. Yeah, but ain't you going to kill the person who betrayed them? Yeah. But you're a level one. Go ahead. Go do what the level ones do. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Pilate therefore went forth again, and says unto them, Behold, I bring him forth to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him.
Consider something. We have to think about these wise and foolish virgins. All of them were sitting there waiting on the Mashiach. But half of them were able to go with the Mashiach, and the other half not. But they were all together, all at the same time. But Yahshua knew the difference between the wise ones and the foolish ones. Go ahead.
Then came Yahshua forth, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate says unto them, Behold the man. When the chief priests therefore and officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. Pilate says unto them, Take you him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. The Yehudis answered him, We have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the son of Elohim. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid.
Right, because even though you have rulers, at the same time, the rulers can't get so far away from what the people deal with. Otherwise, the people who are over them bring problems, saying, you're not able to rule over the area that I gave you. Why are these people revolting? You're supposed to have these people to be ruled over and like it. See, that's how some of the religion was pushed on us anyway. See, so we could be good, happy slaves. This is why black people will forgive everybody except each other. Anybody in the world do something to us, automatic forgiveness, unless it's one of us. Now, where do you think we got that from? See? Master could beat you down. You do all of those things, but that indoctrination part of religion was put there for us to act a certain way about people of authority. But then when we see each other, we don't see any authority, and we deal with each other in some real strange ways. Go ahead.
When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid, and went again into the judgment hall, and says unto Yahshua, Whence art you? But Yahshua gave no answer. Then says Pilate unto him, Speak you not unto me? Know you not that I have power to crucify you, and have power to release you? Yahshua answered,
Now before, he wasn't even talking. Then when the man says what power he has, now Yahshua starts talking. Go ahead.
You could have no power at all against me, except it were given you from above. Therefore, he that delivered me unto you has the greater sin.
Right. Somebody had to fulfill that level 1 role. People who just like to show up, the seat dwellers, Yahweh got a job for them too. It's some evil that's got to be done in the kingdom, and somebody got to do it. And don't nobody think they auditioning for that role. But somebody got to do it. Lucifer got his people. He got his hierarchy set up. He has a whole congregation of people who don't even know that they're worshiping him. Then he has leaders who know that they're worshiping him, and he is giving them everything. Planes, trains, boats, everything. They got everything. Go ahead.
And from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him. But the Yehudis cried out, saying, If you let this man go, you're not Caesar's friend. Whosoever makes himself a king speaks against Caesar. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Yahshua forth, and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the pavement, but in the Hebrew, Gabbatha.
Now, you see what he said. Who brought me to you has the greater sin. See, you playing a role that you don't even understand yourself. You don't even really understand what's going on here. Go ahead.
And it was the preparation of the Passover, and about the 6th hour. And he says unto the Yehudis, Behold your king. But they cried out, Away with him, crucify him. Pilate says unto them, Shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, We have no king but Caesar. Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified. And they took Yahshua and led him away. And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in the Hebrew Golgotha, where they crucified him, and 2 other with him, on either side one, and Yahshua in the midst. And Pilate wrote a title, and put it on the cross, and the writing was, Yahshua of Nazareth, the King of the Yehudis. This title then read many of the Yehudis, for the place where Yahshua was crucified was near to the city, and it was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin.
Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. So they always understood the name of Yahshua. They always understood these things and what his real name was. We, of course, were given this name so that it could be another way of us worshiping the gods of our captors. Go ahead.
Then said the chief priests of the Yehudis to Pilate, Write not the king of the Yehudis, but that he said, I am the king of the Yehudis. Pilate answered, What I've written, I've written.
Right, you done already pushed me into doing something that I ain't want to do anyway. You don't get to dictate what I'm going to put. Since that bother y'all, I'm going to make sure it stay there. This is your king, whether you like it or not. But remember what Yahweh said. When the people asked for a king, Yahweh told Samuel, look, it's not you that they have a problem with. It's really me. It's not you. They don't have a problem with you. They have a problem with me. They have a problem that I should rule over them. See? You just the one that they see. Who they really have indignation with is me, because they don't want to walk in the rules and regulations that I've given. Go ahead.
Then the soldiers, when they had crucified Yahshua, took his garments and made 4 parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout. They said therefore among themselves, Let us not rend it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be, that the scripture might be fulfilled, which says, They parted my raiment among them, and for my vesture they did cast lots.
It never does occur to people that they are fulfilling prophecy while they're following the dictates of the flesh. Because people are following whatever it is they like, what they want, and what they want to accomplish. They haven't gotten in this book far enough to find out. You're fulfilling a real bad part of what's written in this book. So they thought it was a good thing. Don't tear it up. No. If we tear it up, how we going to enjoy it? So let's just cast lots to see who going to get it. And they said, man, that's a really good idea. Having no idea. Wow. Y'all fulfilling what's written in this book. And you got chief priests that were doing things not understanding that they were fulfilling evil prophetic things of what was written in this book. But you can't see any of that when you're wrapped up in your flesh. All you see is what you want, what you think, what you feel, and what you believe. Go ahead.
These things therefore the soldiers did. Verse 25. Now there stood by the cross of Yahshua his mother, and his mother's sister, Miriam the wife of Cleophas, and Miriam Magdalene. When Yahshua therefore saw his mother, and the disciple standing by, whom he loved, he says unto his mother, Woman, behold your son. Then says he to the disciple, Behold your mother. And from that hour that disciple took her on to his own home. After this, Yahshua, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, saith, I thirst. Now there was set a vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar, and put it upon hyssop, and put it to his mouth. When Yahshua therefore had received the vinegar, he said, It is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. The Yehudis therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Shabbat day, for that Shabbat day was an high day.
That Shabbat day was a high day, because now you have a Sabbath coming that falls on a regular Sabbath. Go ahead.
Besought Pilate that their legs might be broken, and that they might be taken away.
So their legs are to be broken so you can make this death happen expeditiously, because, hey, they can't be up on here hanging when the Sabbath comes. Yet you still have people who are walking around. Now, these are New Testament so-called believers that say, we're not sure when the Sabbath is. What was the problem? They call it Good Friday. It's the preparation day. It says the sun was going down. It's beginning to be the Sabbath. What day come after Friday? Now, I didn't need no PhD to figure that out. But they tell you what, everything has been changed so much, you can't really tell when the Sabbath is. This answers that and throws it. I keep telling y'all, stop going all the way around the book. The stuff you need is right in your reach. Go ahead.
Then came the soldiers and brake the legs of the first and of the other which was crucified with him. But when they came to Yahshua and saw that he was dead already, they brake not his legs.
Right.
But one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water. And he that saw it bared record, and his record is true, and he knows that he says true, that you might believe. For these things were done, that the scripture should be fulfilled. A bone of him shall not be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And again another scripture says, they shall look on him whom they pierced.
Right. But, of course, none of them are thinking about this. They are fulfilling the need of the flesh at that particular time. And when you go about to fulfill the need of the flesh at the particular space and time that you are in, you could be standing all in the midst of all manner of sin and never feel it. And as we're going through an atonement of afflicting our souls, of denying this flesh, constantly this flesh is going to desire food within this 24-hour period. But you're going to find out something about yourself, and you're going to find out something about the flesh. The flesh lie. The flesh tell you don't eat right now, I swear you're going to die. I swear you're going to die. I swear you're going to die right now. You're going to drop dead on this floor, and your tongue going to come out of your mouth and roll down the street. 20 minutes later, you're going to forget you was hungry. The flesh is a lie. And if you keep listening to everything that it say, go here, go there. I got to do this to please these people. I got to do that to please these people. I got to do this to please those people over there. Right. The flesh is directing you. And the flesh lie. The flesh will make you think that you got to have something, and you ain't got to have it. The flesh will want you to desire something or to go after something too early. And Yahweh said, I already got that for you, but that one right there, not yours. The flesh will make you think you're ready for something that you ain't ready for. That's why you believe you deserve it. Because you think you're ready now. And what happens when you get things that you're not ready for, sometimes you waste it so bad that at the point that you actually get ready for it, you can't have it. Because you wasted that opportunity. Go ahead, brother. Oh, you hired, we fixed the doorbell. She broke it last time. I was just playing. She ain't break. Go ahead.
Yohanan chapter 19 and verse 38. And after this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Yahshua, but secretly for fear of the Yehudis, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Yeshua, and Pilate gave him leave. He came therefore and took the body of Yeshua. And there came also Nicodemus, which at first came to Yeshua by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight. Then took they the body of Yeshua and wound it in linen clothes, with the spices, as the manner of the Yehudis is to bury.
Right. As it is the manner of us to bury. They took the body of Yeshua, wound it in linen clothes. Wait a minute. So the righteous garments that we're supposed to be wearing as priests is linen. You have a burial. They anoint the body with oil and spices and wrap it in linen. Yahweh is methodical in the stuff that he does. Yeah, we'll go out and spend all our money on some mess. Go ahead.
Verse 41. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden a new sepulchre, wherein was never man yet laid. There laid they Yeshua therefore because of the Yehudis' preparation day, for the sepulchre was near at hand.
Right, just because it was near and the Sabbath was close, they were able to do this burial just like this. Man, when somebody passed now, it take them a week to even get all the burial plans, because we now following the dictates of our slave master. They said, look, you need to get that $20,000 casket. Now everybody running around trying to borrow money from everybody. Yet these poor people were able to whip up a burial, get some linen clothes, get some spices, get some oil, and take care of that business. Let's go to chapter 20 and let's read verses 1 through 17.
Yeah, in chapter 20 and verse 1. The first day of the week comes Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and sees the stone taken away from the sepulchre.
Right. So now we got everybody talking about they're going to worship on Sunday, because you see all these things that happen on the first day of the week. Yeah, because they couldn't do it on the Sabbath. He had to go Friday. They said it was a preparation day. He had to hurry up and take care of that business because it was the Sabbath. Then they waited. You know how much? You're talking about a real important event. Yet they still waited. When we think something is important, we say, well, it's okay to break the rules because this is important. How much more important can you get than the Son of Elohim has passed and you want to go and visit that place? But then they wait. Right. Go ahead.
Then she runs and comes to Simeon Peter and to the other disciple whom Yeshua loved, and says unto them, They have taken away the Adonai out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they have laid him. Cephas therefore went forth, and that other disciple, and came to the sepulchre. So they ran both together, and the other disciple did outrun Cephas, and came first to the sepulchre. And he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen clothes lying, yet went he not in. Then comes Simeon Peter following him, and went into the sepulchre, and sees the linen clothes lie, and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen clothes, but wrapped together in a place by itself. Then went in also the other disciple, which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. For as yet they knew not that the scripture that he must rise again from the dead. Then the disciples went away again unto their own home.
See, when you're reading this book, you have to understand that Yahweh gives understanding on levels. I will never say that I understand all of anything. I understand what Yahweh has allowed for me to understand. There's certain things that he does not give you understanding on because he doesn't want to place that weight on you yet. And there's certain things that you understand to a degree. And then he'll cause certain issues and things to happen in your life, and then your degree of understanding will go up. That's how you get wisdom, through the issues and things that you're going to encounter in life than the things that Yahweh brings to you concerning the spiritual understanding of those things. Because anybody who knows words can pick up the Bible and read. That doesn't mean they have any understanding about what's in it. Go ahead.
But Miriam stood without at the sepulchre weeping. As she wept, she stood down and looked into the sepulchre, and sees two angels in white sitting, the one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Yahshua had lain.
All right. What's holy attire?
Linen.
Right. So you see two angels sitting in white. What you think it's made of?
Linen.
Right. So then you got to ask yourself, how many of y'all got some white linen? Mm-hmm. I got some white polyester. I got, Yeah. 1999. Remember the whole part where it says, how this man come into this wedding feast not having on a wedding garment? And he got thrown out and cast in the outer darkness. Maybe he didn't understand where he was coming. Maybe he didn't understand the gravity of the situation. But it would be a real sad thing to lose your salvation because you got comfortable with what Yahweh has set up. And you showed up in some basketball gear, standing at the wedding supper of the Lamb, and you trying to figure out, who is this man disrespecting me, man? Why this dude got on some extra regular clothes in here? Does he not understand that this is a major event? Who let this dude in here, man? It would be a shame to lose your life and your salvation because how disrespectful you approached unto the Elohim of Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And they say unto her, Woman, why weepeth thou? She says unto them, Because they have taken away my Adonai, and I know not where they have laid him. And when she had thus said, she turned herself back, and saw Yahshua standing, and knew not that it was Yahshua. Yahshua says unto her, Woman, why weepeth thou? Whom seeketh you? She, supposing him to be the gardener, says unto him, Sir, if you have borne him hence, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away. Yahshua says unto her, Miriam. She turned herself and says unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Yahshua says unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go you to my brethren, and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father, and your Father, and to my Elohim, and your Elohim.
Now, there's several things in here. First of all, let's just take the last one. To my Elohim and to your Elohim. It says, let us make man. Yet people still have this one entity situation. He automatically says, it's my Elohim, it's my God, and your God. So here it is, the Mashiach being our God. Our God got a God. And people have not dealt with that. This is why you have people walking around talking about, thank you, Jesus. They never thank the Father. He automatically puts everything back to the Father. In other words, there's a hierarchy, there's an order. And what we want to do is deal with things outside of the order. And it doesn't work like that. This is why we are named after Israel. He says, this is my son, Israel. So then you have the next statement going back up, for I am not yet ascended unto my Father, touch me not. When we read the things that were written in the law, they then had to take that atonement blood and place it on the altar to make an atonement. They had to put that blood in certain places. And it says no man is to be in when they're going to do those things. So although Yahshua then shows himself to them, hey, you can't touch me Cause ain't nobody supposed to be in here when I go do what I gotta do. You can't touch me. I got a job to go do. I have to go and anoint the altar in heaven with my own blood that I have shed, so that you can have atonement, not him. See, the priest first have to make atonement for himself. Then he's in a place to where he can make an atonement for you. Yahshua ain't have to do that. He didn't have to make atonement for himself. Go ahead.
Verse 18. Miriam Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Adonai, and that he had spoken these things unto her.
All right, let's go to Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9, and we're going to start with verses 1 through 11.
Verse 1. Then verily the first covenant had also ordinances of divine service and a worldly sanctuary. For there was a tabernacle made, the first wherein was the candlestick and the table and the showbread, which is called the sanctuary. And after the second veil, the tabernacle which is called the holiest of all.
Right. So then there's a separation in those things. There are levels then. What the adversary wants to do is make everything on the same level. It says everything is approachable for everybody. Come as you are. Do whatever you want to do. It was automatically a separation between the holy and the most holy. Go ahead.
Which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. And over it the cherubims of glory shadowing the mercy seat, of which we cannot now speak particularly. Now when these things were thus ordained, the priest went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of Elohim. But into the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the errors of the people.
Right. So then Yahshua was perfecting these things on a whole nother level, being our high priest, going in with the blood, the atonement blood, to make atonement for the children of Israel. All of these things are going on, and what most people, so when you even deal with that, most people really don't understand the Passover, because it's all of these atonement things that are going on, but they are just dealing with the whole holy day of Passover. So you have a lot of people that will show up for the Passover or deal with the Passover and talk about the Passover, but they really don't understand it when it gets right down to it, that their atonement properties directly connected to what Yahshua was doing at Passover. Go ahead.
Verse 8. The Holy Ghost this signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect, as pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks, and divers washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of reformation. But the Mashiach, being come an high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building.
Right. The Mashiach became our high priest. He was already a priest beforehand, and then he had already his under priest there, but then taking care of this business, he definitely solidified his position as high priest. So then that's when you move toward the whole thing of dealing with the Melchizedek priesthood, because now you got a endless body. A high priest served as a high priest for a time. Well, Yahshua's time ain't never going to expire. So he's never going to have to leave that post. Go ahead.
Neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats, and the ashes of an heifer sprinkling the unclean, sanctify to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of the Mashiach, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to Elohim, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim? And for this cause he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance.
Is that it? You finished that, brother?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 6. So then we see that we find the very things of why and what Yahshua is doing with that blood, with that atonement blood. Yet we don't even consider and take the part of atonement serious. We don't even take those things for the true weight that they have. Matthew chapter 6, and let's read verses 16 through 18.
Moreover, when you fast, be not, as the hypocrites, of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces,
Go
that
ahead.
they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
Right, and we do it all the time. When we want somebody to ask, what's wrong with you? So we just walk around with the ugly face. Because you know somebody going to say, what's wrong with you? Oh, woe is me. Oh, my life. Oh, my goodness. I'm so hungry. Oh, I'm so hungry. You got your reward. There it is. You can go ahead and stop fasting. Go ahead. Go ahead. Just stop. Go and get you a piece of chicken. Go ahead, because yours is over. You already got your reward. That what you wanted? You got it, Scab. There it is. Go ahead and take it with you. Hope it keep you warm in the lake. Go ahead.
But you, when you fasteth, anoint your head and wash your face.
So don't be showing up all stinking just so you can tell people that you fast. So people can ask you, you smell like a fast. No. Go ahead.
That you appear not unto men to fast, but unto your Father which is in secret. And your Father which sees in secret shall reward you openly.
Your Father which sees in secret shall reward you openly. So understand, Israel, we have 24 hours to fast. We have 24 hours to afflict our souls. And do understand, the first way Yahweh dealt with the children of Israel was removing food from us. It is the thing that we deal with the most. Whether you got a car or not, whether you got a nice car or not, everybody eat. And the more money we have, the better we eat. So let us consider this whole process of afflicting our soul. Let us consider this whole process of denying our flesh or denying ourselves. And while we're at the point of going through those things, do understand, like I've said before, you will have those times where that flesh is going to tell you it's time to eat. If you don't stop this fast right now, we're going to die. The flesh lie. But you got to go through this enough to know that the flesh lie. Why? Because that same flesh that tell you that if you don't eat, you're going to die. That same flesh told you, if I don't get that man, I'm going to die. If I don't get that woman, I'm just going to kill myself. If I don't get this car, life ain't worth living. If I don't get that house, then I have not been successful. It's the same flesh. The same one that's finna lie to you. And I'm telling you, I can promise you, the flesh finna lie to you in a few hours. I'm telling you, it's finna lie to you. But the flesh so strong, I can tell you that it gonna lie to you. And you'll still be tricked by the lie in a couple hours. What's the problem? Yahshua said, I'm gonna bring all the nations up for judgment at the battle of Armageddon. Everybody done read it. Everybody done heard it. But guess what? The flesh gonna lead them right up there. If you knew you were going for judgment, would you still go? So that means the flesh gonna tell them something else. They gonna feel justified all the way up until they realize, wait a minute, I thought I was coming to judge somebody else. You mean it's my judgment? Right, you going on trial. See, that's how Yahweh used that flesh and let you go right on about your business until you realize that the court date that you showing up at is yours. You're not a juror. See, some people go to court thinking that they're on the jury until you realize, hey, what defendant is in front of my seat? I'm sorry, boo-boo. We didn't tell you, did we? No, today's your trial. What? But I didn't have time to prepare. Oh, no, you had years to prepare. You just found other things to do. You found other things to prepare for. You found other things to put your time and your energy in. No, you've already had your preparation time. So all that you are not prepared for, you ain't going to be prepared for. Preparation time is over. Your trial begins now. So understand what the lying flesh is about to do to you. But it is a very powerful thing to understand. When you understand that the flesh lies, the more you understand about a thing, the more you are able to put it into subjection. People who don't understand certain things, they don't have power over those things. People who ride motorcycles, they have to have a certain kind of understanding of motorcycles so that they can control the motorcycle. If you ride horses, you got to have a certain amount of understanding about it so that, you're able to control that. So we begin to get a little understanding about the flesh tonight. So keep your mind on what you're supposed to be on. It is the atonement, which means you don't fill up that time with things that are outside of Yahweh's word. I mean, we understand we got kids in the house, but y'all ain't no kids. Don't be around here trying to play Monopoly with the children because you trying to pass the time. No, this is your atonement. Sit down. Afflict yourself. Something that we can't do. We can't put the phone. Take that phone. Take the battery out of it and throw it in the closet. What you smiling for here? I know you be on that phone all the time, boy. Uh-huh. He ain't the only one. What y'all looking over there for? That's all we're going to do for tonight. Y'all's will. We'll see y'all in a few hours. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.